Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and this is Teacher Entrepreneurship Week, and Matt Harris is here with us. Welcome, Matt.
Good morning.
Where in the world are you, and what time is it?
I am in Jakarta, Indonesia. I just moved here a few weeks ago, so I'm sitting in an empty bedroom staring at boxes. It is 5:46 in the morning on Tuesday.
Nice. Thanks to Tez at TES.com for sponsoring this interview series. Please do visit their educational resources marketplace, TES.com. So, Matt, you've got quite a bio here. I'm just going to read a couple of bits and pieces. Matt Harris is an international educator, educational leader, teacher, instructional technologist, author, presenter, and researcher. He's taught all grade levels from preschool to graduate school as an ICT and mathematics teacher. He's worked as a senior administrator, Ministries of Education, consulting in Ministries of Education in the Middle East, Africa, North America, Australia, and Asia. Dr. Harris is a frequent conference speaker. You can read this all on the website. And chair-elect of the Board of Directors. Well, you're now chair of the Board of Directors, right?
No, technically I started January 1st.
Nice, January 1st. Okay, so teacher entrepreneur is really a phrase that describes you.
Thank you.
So how does someone do that?
How does someone do that? You know, when I hear that phrase, I think about attitudes and you know, the term growth mindset. You know, we talk about that a lot right now in education. That really jumps out at me when I think about teacher entrepreneurship, because there are so many opportunities for teachers out there to connect with others, to try new things, to experiment in such a way where they gain a better understanding of what teaching and learning really means for students within the framework of whatever their context is. So one of the nice things for me is that I get to do this internationally. You know, I work with a lot of international schools, and I get exposed to a lot of curricula and a lot of pedagogies. And the way that people teach is so varied around the world. And what I find is that those teacher entrepreneurs, those risk takers, those thought leaders are the ones that really have a deep understanding of what they're trying to accomplish in terms of student learning. And they take risks and they experiment and they push the needle forward to make sure that even though they're kind of bound by standards and requirements within their own schools, that they're trying things that push the students to learn even more beyond just the basic requirements.
So you're making a pretty direct connection between teacher entrepreneurship, that attitude and the courage, with student learning. Is there also a piece of that where it's modeling for the students how you are a proactive learner?
Oh, absolutely. You know, teachers themselves have to be students all the time. I mean, professional development, or I guess the term we use now is professional learning, is such a key part of success for teachers. The ones that have the most difficulty, at least in my experience, are the ones that they kind of accept status quo, that accept kind of the situational realities of being a teacher within school X. But teachers that can go out and look at new materials, have a critical eye, and then take those materials and somehow combine them in a way where they can gain value for their own practice and their own learning is exactly what we want students to do out in the real world. You know, we want them to have a task or have an assignment, find a way to collect resources they need to entrepreneurial spirit, right? That notion of finding something new for the betterment of themselves and others. And it's the same model whether you're a teacher, an administrator, a student, whatever stakeholder group within our schools.
So what does the teacher do who feels like they're in a school environment that's not necessarily supportive of that kind of proactivity? What kind of steps can they take?
You know, the nice part about the world that I interact with is that it is so broad. You know, it's a little bit different when you work internationally because teachers in international schools move around quite a bit. And so though you are bound to a local institution or a local school or a particular curriculum, a set of curriculum requirements, there are so many other people out there that you can connect with. And international teachers are excellent about this because they move every 3 to 5 years. So they, you know somebody that has worked in a country right around the corner or somewhere halfway around the world. And they use those resources to connect to other schools. And it's not just the people, but it's also the ideas. And they kind of, you hop, you have several degrees of separation to just about anything that you want. And I find that teachers that are in situations where they don't necessarily have the most supportive administration or they're bound by some rules that they can't really get beyond, if they can jump into those types of networks by jumping on Twitter or Scoopit or LinkedIn and engaging in conversations where they're exposed to new resources, where they can have honest communications or honest discussions that they can't have in their own schools, then they're not bound by the limitations of their classroom.
How much does this reflect the change in the last, say, 10 years, and how much of it has sort of always been universal to teaching?
I think there's elements of both of that. Things have ramped up so much in the last few years. Teaching has always been about providing a set of skills and knowledge to prepare students for whatever purpose, whether it's working in factories or being thought leaders or having some political aspirations. Those are things that we have done in education for quite a while, and we have tried to change things forever. The problem is that we've always been very slow. Now there's been such an embrace of technology and Web 2.0 technologies a few years ago, and now social media and even digital citizenship, that everything is moving incredibly fast. And it's moving in such a way where teachers have such a stronger voice than they used to have. Before, it was kind of an acceptance of this is how the school is moving or this is how the district is moving. Now teachers are the exemplars. Teachers are the ones that are going out and showing us the amazing things that can happen, and then the schools are turning around saying, wow, that's great. The challenge is that as soon as they show us that we're on to the next thing. But it's an exciting time. It's just amazing to go to conferences and hear the passion coming out of these really engaged entrepreneurs, because they are setting the pace. They're setting the agenda for what we're talking about educationally all over the world. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
So you break up a little. I think it's because of the connection there in Jakarta, but we're getting most of it. Okay. What about the teacher that worries about being able to do what they need to do and then have time to be sort of entrepreneurial at the same time? How do you recommend that they keep a balance?
I guess it's a management of time and priorities. And I guess there's two answers that I see to that. One of them is recognizing that it's not an either or. That there is space within those requirements of what you're looking to do, to be entrepreneurial, to be a risk taker, to try new things. One of the ones that we talk about, or one of the areas that we talk about quite a bit here overseas, is how do you, in senior school level, overseas, most schools have a leaving exam, and the one that I work with, how do you break free of all of that when you've got 18 months to get through all of this content, or 20 months to get through a whole bunch of content that has a very, very high stakes exam at the end? And what we find is that teachers will work collaboratively. They'll find individual opportunities within projects to expand what knowledge that they have and what things that they can do. And then they share that work. That's a big part, is they also are sharing what they're doing so that other teachers can look at it as well. Other teachers that I find who are kind of bound by these requirements, they do prioritize their time. They ensure they're doing what they're needing to do, but then they carve time that they would be using for some other planning to be entrepreneurial, to try a few things and just experiment.
What are some of the most exciting teacher-driven changes that you're seeing?
The most exciting teacher-driven changes that I've seen. Oh gosh, that's a challenging question, isn't it? Because there's just so many things that are happening. You know, the one that just keeps popping back to me is this notion of international collaboration. You know, administrators didn't start the Twitter chat functions. They didn't start these sharing networks. It really is a series of teachers. And every time I turn around on Twitter, there's another hashtag of another great chat that's going on. As soon as you jump in these chats, you learn so much. That's driven by individual teachers. That's amazing. I would say kind of parallel to that, the Ed Camp movement, I think was great. And that I'm not sure who really started that. I can't pinpoint it, but I see it continuing from teachers at individual locations that have kind of purposed it for themselves, to have honest communications about learning, not tying their work directly to a specific topic they need to get done. Those two are just amazing to me. I would say those two are the ones that I think are the most progressive right now.
Okay, anybody in particular that you're following that you think people would really benefit from kind of watching?
Well, I would say just about all the people on the list for for these interviews. Yeah, I have to say I felt pretty honored to be associated with this group of people. You have some pretty amazing thought leaders on this list. What I try and people to follow is that I compartmentalize my social media usage. So my Twitter usage is around mostly educational technology, but then also leadership. So I look at a few people around general leadership, not tied directly to learning. I look at a few people that are doing specific things around the growth mindset. That's such a big topic right now. But because ed tech is such a big part of what I do, I look for all of the big names in ed tech, and then what I will do is I look at those that are most engaged with me, because it's not just following and consuming information from them, it's having an authentic dialogue with other people. And when I have people that are willing to engage, that's the most rewarding for me.
One book you're reading right now that you would recommend that others look at?
One book that I'm reading right now, you know, I've actually read it a couple of times, and it's tied to senior level leadership and governance. It's called Governance as Leadership, and what it talks about is that the role of boards is not just to be strategic, but also to be generative, and that really ties a lot to not only leadership within a school, but also leadership within a classroom. That your job as a teacher, your job as an educational leader is not only to be strategic and fiduciary by meeting all the needs of your students, but to be generative, to be thinking outside of your scope, bringing in new ideas so that you're able to move forward and meet some of those strategic needs. It really has great application for all levels of leadership and even in the classroom.
Thanks, Matt. Matt Harris, Teacher Entrepreneurship Week. Really appreciate your getting up early for this.
Have a good day. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.
And thanks to TES, TES.com, for sponsoring this series. Take care. Bye.